Bachelor in Paradise, Jonathon Johnson talks shocking rose ceremony. July 23, 2025. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bachelor Nation News fans. Anything can and does happen on Bachelor in Paradise. Jesse Palmer and Wells Adams both teased a possible romance between one of the Bolden contestants and their younger counterparts. The latest rose ceremony sent shockwaves through the cast when April Kirkwood gave her rose to Jonathon Johnson. He opened up about the shocking turn of events. Keep reading to find out why it took him by surprise. Jonathon Johnson struggles to find match on Bachelor in Paradise. Jonathon Johnson was a contestant on Jen Tran's season of The Bachelorette. He made it to the fantasy suites before he was eliminated from the competition. Some fans wanted him to be the next Bachelor. Instead, the network invited him to join Season 10 of Bachelor in Paradise. Despite being one of the first 16 contestants on the beach, Jonathon Johnson failed to find a connection with any of the women. The Season 10 contestants paired up quickly. The pairings weren't a huge surprise going into the last rose ceremony. Jess Edwards gave her rose to Spencer Conley. Bailey Brown gave hers to Jeremy Simon, despite drama with Susie Evans last week. Parisa Shifteh gave her rose to Brian Otts. Jill Chin gave her rose to Sean McLaughlin. Dale Moss still got Kat Izzo's rose despite kissing another woman. For the Golden contestants, Natasha Hardy gave her rose to Gary Livingston. Kathy Swartz gave hers to Keith Gordon, and Leslie Feenan gave her rose to Kim Boyke. That left Jonathon Johnson and Golden men Jack Lencioni, R.J. Johnson, and Charles King without roses. April Kirkwood had the last remaining rose. Instead of picking one of the men her own age, she gave her rose to Jonathon. He opens up about shocking rose ceremony. April had been heavily flirting with Jonathon Johnson since arriving on the beach. She also shared some kisses with Jack. But she ultimately decided to give her rose to Jonathon so he could have more time on the beach to find love. Jonathon Johnson appeared on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast after the episode to talk about the shocking moment. He said he was as blindsided as everyone else was. "I didn't even try with April, like I wasn't trying for a rose," he said on the podcast. The Bachelorette alum said his bags were packed and he was ready to leave. Jonathon Johnson called April's gesture one of the kindest moments of his time on Bachelor in Paradise. Bachelorette star reveals another Golden lady pulled him aside. April Kirkwood giving Jonathon Johnson a rose doesn't necessarily mean she expects romance to blossom. Jonathon Johnson revealed that she wasn't the only Golden woman to pull him aside. He said on the podcast that Leslie Fema struck up a conversation before the rose ceremony. He told her that it was going to be his last night and he didn't think any of the women were right for him. She told April what he'd said, which he believes is why April gave him the rose. The episode ended with the arrival of Golden Bachelor third-place contestant Faith Martin riding a horse up to the beach. Her arrival is sure to shake things up. The next episode airs on Monday, July 28th.
Bachelor in Paradise. Jonathon Johnson talks shocking rose ceremony that changed everything. Calm before the storm. Jonathon Johnson had thought he'd seen it all. As a former fan favorite from The Bachelorette, the handsome, ever-smiling entrepreneur from Charleston entered Bachelor in Paradise with a reputation for being grounded, genuine, and, perhaps most importantly, unbothered by the chaos the beach so often unleashed. But Season 10 wasn't like any other. "I walked onto that beach thinking I was here for love," Jonathon would later admit in an emotional post-show interview. "I had no idea I'd be thrown into the most mind-bending rose ceremony I've ever seen, and I mean that literally." When Jonathon arrived in week 2, the vibe was already different. The OGs were stressed. Rumors about producer manipulation had been floating around since the first cocktail party, and contestants whispered about unexpected exits, shady twists, and alliances that had little to do with romance and everything to do with airtime. He hadn't planned to be a whistleblower. He hadn't planned to be the center of a rose ceremony that would be talked about for years. But that's exactly what happened. The arrival that sparked tension. Jonathon wasn't even supposed to be there yet. According to sources, his entry was delayed due to a scheduling conflict, something involving a mysterious off-camera medical check. But the producers were adamant about keeping him for the perfect moment. And that moment came right after Olivia Hightower, fresh off a public spat with her on-again, off-again flame Justin M., threw her drink and stormed off the beach, shouting that this entire show is a scam. Enter Jonathon. Tanned, relaxed, shirt slightly unbuttoned in a way that said, "I'm here for paradise, not drama." Within minutes, the women were buzzing. Even the strongest couples, Bria and Caleb, Sasha and Leo, watched closely as Jonathon made his rounds. And when he asked Carla Andrews, the self-assured social worker from Houston, out on a date, the beach shifted. "I think that was the first domino," Jonathon said. Carla had just accepted a rose from Blake the night before. They were vibing, but producers kept nudging me toward her, asking if I saw something there. And the thing is, I did, but I didn't realize how much it would cost me. Blake's breakdown. Blake Hartman wasn't used to being threatened. The fitness model had breezed through his Bachelorette season with a golden boy glow, and he'd walked into paradise expecting more of the same. But when Carla walked down the steps with Jonathon after their date, hand in hand, laughing and tanned, Blake's confident smirk cracked. That night, he skipped the bonfire and drank alone in the cabana. By morning, his energy was darker. He started whispering to the guys, questioning Jonathon's intentions, accusing him of being producer-planted. But Jonathon stayed calm. Or at least he did until the rose ceremony. Rose ceremony rewritten. What happened at the third rose ceremony of the season has since become Bachelor Nation legend. Just 20 minutes before filming began, host Jesse Palmer pulled Jonathon aside. "I have never had that happen before," Jonathon recalled. "No cameras, just Jesse and one producer. And they were like, 'You're going to need to change your rose pick. We're giving Carla a special offer.'" A special offer? Jonathon asked questions. The answers weren't clear. They said it would make for better TV, that a twist was being introduced, and that Carla was being given the option to offer her rose to any man on the beach, even if she hadn't received one. This wasn't paradise anymore. This was chess, and Jonathon was caught in checkmate. The twist that broke Carla. When the ceremony began, Jonathon stood stone-faced, watching the women step forward one by one. Sasha, Bria, Vanessa, then Carla. She paused, looked at Blake, then at Jonathon. And then Jesse made his announcement. "For the first time ever," he said, "one of our bachelorettes has been given the power to offer a rose before any of the men. Carla, the choice is yours." Gasps, whispers, audible "what the hell" from the back. Carla stepped forward. Her hands shook. She glanced back at Jonathon, then turned to Blake, and gave him the rose. Paradise implodes. The aftermath was brutal. Jonathon didn't get a rose that night. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was that after the ceremony ended, Carla followed him to the exit van. She sat beside him, crying. "They threatened to cut my confessionals," she whispered, "said they'd make me look fake if I didn't go with Blake. I'm sorry, I didn't want to blindside you." Jonathon didn't say a word. Not then, not until after Paradise, when everything blew up. After Paradise, Jonathon tells all. During the live After Paradise reunion, Jonathon came ready. Wearing all black and holding nothing back, he stunned fans when he revealed behind-the-scenes footage, secretly recorded audio clips of producers urging contestants to switch alliances, emotional blackmail over screen time, and even footage of a heated argument between Jesse Palmer and executive producer Marla Gresky. But what hit hardest? The moment he played Carla's confession, sitting in that van weeping as she said, "They said if I gave you the rose, it would ruin the edit." The studio fell silent. Even Jesse, sitting feet away, looked shaken. Carla's apology and the beach fallout. Carla joined Jonathon on stage. "I didn't have a voice," she said through tears. "I thought I was here to find love, but I felt like a puppet."
Her words caused an avalanche. Within hours of the broadcast, 4 other contestants posted cryptic Instagram stories supporting Jonathon. 2 crew members were anonymously quoted by Reality Steve, corroborating his claims. By the following week, ABC had released a statement promising an internal review of Paradise production ethics. Jonathon's new chapter. Jonathon declined an offer to become the next Bachelor. "I didn't want to pretend like this show has changed me," he said. Instead, he started a podcast, Behind the Rose, Reality Unfiltered. Within days, it topped the charts. He interviewed past contestants who had been silenced. He invited therapists to speak on emotional manipulation. He even hosted Carla for a full episode where she detailed her regrets, her healing, and the truth about her and Blake. Spoiler, they lasted 6 days post-show. Jonathon's integrity made him a rare gem in a franchise known for illusion. Redemption on his own terms. 6 months later, Jonathon was spotted in Italy with a woman who fans recognized from a different reality show, Amelia Costa, an environmental scientist from Survivor South Pacific. When asked if he'd ever return to the Bachelor franchise, Jonathon smiled. "I already got my rose," he said, pointing to Amelia beside him. And as for Bachelor in Paradise, ratings plummeted for the rest of the season. But for the first time, viewers were asking real questions about the production, about consent, about truth, all sparked by one man who refused to play by the rules of a rigged rose ceremony.